Thank you all for coming. We got a full house over the next 2 days. It's just you and 250 of your best friends talking about open source and energy. So it's going to be a good time. A few things to get out of the way before we get going. So first, everybody should feel welcome here. We take our code of conduct very, very seriously. If you want to learn more, scan that QR code. Be kind, be respectful. If you have any issues whatsoever, please find me, please find the event staff, and we'll get it taken care of. Events cost a lot of money. That's what I've learned over the past year. So I want to thank our sponsors for helping make this happen. So Platinum, Google, thank you very much. Silver, Subwarfare, Linux. These guys committed to sponsoring at the end of last year's LF Energy Summit. So that's the commitment that they have here. Thank you all. And we also have a media partner conducting podcast interviews. I'm really sorry, I'm going to butcher the name. Energy Strategy Podden. Thank you for being here as well. We have a very busy 2 days. We have 3 tracks of presentations. We have hands-on workshops. We have demos. We have special interest group meetups. A lot is going on. Please make sure you check out the schedule. Check off the things that you want to see. Make the best use of your time here. And then last little announcement. We have a reception today in the foyer. 5 to 7, free food, free drinks, great people, great conversation, no reason not to come. So I'll see you there. Okay, so I'm going to just chat for about 10 minutes. Why are you here? Right? This isn't some existential question, why are we here? But really, like, what are you doing here today in this room in Brussels? And I ask that because I kind of have sometimes conflicting feelings about events, right? We all emitted a lot of carbon to get here. I came from California. That's a lot of carbon to get here. And yet we're an organization that's meant to be decarbonizing the energy system. So what are we doing here? Why have you all spent so much time, money, and carbon to be here? And I want you all to take a few moments to reflect about that and think about what you want to achieve over the next 2 days to ensure that it actually has the impact that you want it to have. Because if it doesn't, we shouldn't be doing this. It's a waste of time, money, and carbon. Okay? Now, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Well, for those of you who aren't involved in LF Energy yet, either through projects or through membership, I want to convince you to get involved. I want to convince you that open source is the best way for you to achieve the goals that you have. And if you're already involved, I want you to double down, right? If you're adopting projects, I want you to start contributing. If you're a general member, I want you to become a strategic, right? Again, open source is a great way to achieve your own goals. Now, if we back up a little bit, why am I here in this role? I have a confession to make. I don't actually care about open source. I don't actually care about technology. I do care about decarbonization. My career actually got started here in Brussels a long time ago. I did policy consulting for the European Commission. I was living in Paris. I was taking the Thales monthly for stakeholder meetings in Brussels. And we were working on energy efficiency initiatives, right? I care about decarbonization. That's my career goal. And you may have heard of these net zero 2050 goals. Conveniently, that lines up with when I'll be 65. I'll be 65 in 2050. And so when we hit those goals on time, I'll be able to retire in peace. Right? Now, I said I didn't care about open source and technology. I care about decarbonization. Open source and technology are a means to an end. I care about solving problems. And we have a big problem. I shamelessly stole this from our friends at GE. They have a bigger marketing and design budget than I do, so hopefully you don't mind. I cited you there. We're undergoing a tremendous energy transition with unprecedented complexity. This isn't new to anybody in this room. You're all familiar with this, right? We can't build our way out of it. It's too slow, too expensive to build more infrastructure. So what do? we need to digitally optimize the physical assets that we have and only build what we need, right? The energy transition is also a digital transition. And this is something that's fairly accepted by now in the industry. If you were at Seagray last week, right, everybody was talking about digital solutions. But the other part of digital that isn't mentioned as much is how do you do digital? What is the best way to do digital? And what the open source movement, the Linux Foundation has proven over the past decades is open source is the proven best way to invest in digital technology. Hands down, right? The leverage you get out of investments in open source return many times over, especially if you're a consumer of that open source. But it's not just the consumers, right? The most admired, valued, innovative companies in the world, your Microsoft, your Google, Amazon, NVIDIA, they're also the most prolific contributors to open source. That's no accident, right? They're reaping value out of the strategic benefits of investing in open source. So it's good for the producer and the consumer. And if companies want to compete in this digital energy transition, they need to embrace open source innovation or get left behind. And that's where LF Energy comes in, right? So our job is to build this open source community around the energy transition. And I often get questions about, well, what exactly does the Linux Foundation do? It's kind of confusing. You know, my relatives ask me this at Christmas. So what do you actually do? Because we don't write the code. And so I kind of say we're like a gym. Who here goes to a gym? Okay, who here should go more often? Yeah, me too. Right, why do you go to a gym? You could just, you know, put on your sneakers, go for a jog, do some push-ups. But it's hard to hit your fitness goals that way on your own, right? You go to a gym because it increases the likelihood of you hitting your fitness and health goals, right? They've got all the equipment that you need. They've got showers, towels, workout classes, trainers, protein shakes, a community of like-minded people, right? And going there increases the likelihood of you hitting your fitness and health goals. But you're the one who has to actually do the sweat, right? You put in the work. The gym doesn't do that for you. And just like that, LF Energy is the gym for open source, right? So we don't do the development, but we provide all of the supporting services around it so that the projects and stakeholders can thrive and increase the chance of them hitting their goals. And there's a lot that goes into that, right? We're a neutral home for these projects so that even competitors feel comfortable collaborating on them. We help set up governance structures for long-term decision-making. We provide shared resources for collaboration, so Zoom accounts, meeting planning, Slack channels, right? Everything that you need to facilitate collaboration. GitHub hosting, CI/CD, all of this stuff costs money, right? And all of it is necessary in order to have a successful open source project at scale. In particular, security is an essential part of what we do, right? We are open source for the energy transition. We're powering mission critical infrastructure here. It needs to work. It needs to be bulletproof. It needs to follow security best practices. And that's an essential part of LF Energy's responsibility, is investing appropriately in the best practices and all the auxiliary support for cybersecurity best practices. Just yesterday, we released an announcement around some security audits that finally became public that we helped fund around two of our most impactful mature projects, Operator Fabric and CPath. Right? This wouldn't have happened without LF Energy's support and the funding that we get from our members. And this is feeding into the security of these mission critical systems. We also help implement OpenSSF best practices, right, through our project lifecycle. Again, this costs money to actually have the CI/CD build systems and the release management. So all of the work that we're doing with LF Energy feeds into actually building mission critical open source software that powers the grid. The other thing we do is we serve as partners for organizations that want to go on this open source journey, right? Oftentimes you start as a consumer of open source, picking projects off the shelf and implementing them. And then you say, well, I'm going to propose a change, make a pull request on a project. You mature a little bit more and you say, I'm going to actually create a new project and build a community around it. And really the target is leadership, right? The Googles and the Microsofts I was referring to, right? How do you leverage open source as a strategic asset to accomplish your own goals? LF Energy helps you along your journey. By now, we count a couple dozen members in the LF Energy ecosystem, and these are the members that are providing the funding that pay for things like those security audits, that pay for things like these events. LF Energy doesn't exist by default, right? It requires funding from these organizations to do the work that we do. And we have a couple dozen projects that are becoming more and more impactful in the world, and you're going to hear all about that over the next 2 days. All right, so going back again to why I'm here to convince you to get involved. Join these logos, right? Become a member, join a project, and use it to achieve what you want in your goals. All right? So with that, I am very happy to introduce Mark Van Stiphout, who is going to win the award for the longest title of presenters during the next 2 days. He's the Deputy Head of Unit Research, Innovation, Digitalization, Competitiveness at DG Energy at the European Commission. And he's going to say how the energy transition needs faster digitalization that needs more coordination. So I think we'd agree on a lot of things. Please welcome Mark to the stage. Thanks, Alex.